Kakadosh Masechet Yoma Daf Amud Aleph. This is Masechet Yoma 5a1. We were by where it says Amar of Yosef. We already did this, but we'll start from this again, where we said what's the difference between the machloke between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Hanina. What was the machloke between them to do with what is me'akev and not me'akev? What is impede or not me'akev, does not impede by the miluim? So answers the Gemara. Amar of Yosef says of Yosef. The difference between them is simicha. Simicha is leaning on the animal, right? Leaning on it, and that's going to be for the kapara. So it says that everything which is written by the miluim, it's going to be me'akev, simicha me'akva. So then simicha is also me'akev even b'diavad, which means if they did not do the simicha in the miluim, so it's going to be me'akev. But according to the man Amar, which is Rabbi Hanina, that he says that something which is not me'akev for generations is not me'akev also by them, so semicha is not me'akev. So says the Gemara, ul dorot minalan de la me'akva. By dorot, how do we know that it's not going to be me'akev? The Tanya, because we learned in a braita. V'samach v'nirtza. What does it mean? V'samach yado al rosh ha'olah v'nirtza lo. So when it says v'samach v'nirtza, so it says v'chi semicha mechaperet. He says what? Semicha does the kapara, because it says v'samach yado rosh ha'olah v'nitza lo lechaper alav. What? The semicha does the kapara. So says the Gemara, v'alo en kapara labadam. The dam is the kapara. The blood that you sprinkle on the mizbeach, that's the kapara. Shneimar ki adamu banefesh yechaper. The dam is what's being the atonement. Umat talmud umar v'samach v'nitza. So what does it teach you with samach v'nitza? Because if you made the semicha like shiure mitzvah, which means the remainers of the mitzvah, it's not it doesn't appear mamash like a mitzvah in his eyes. It's like a derech agav. Maleh alav hakatuv ki'ilu lo kiper, right? So it's ki'ilu, right, that he wasn't kiper. So therefore he says v'chiper, which means that be'emet it was mitkaper b'diavad, even though you didn't do the semicha. Meaning, if you went and you made the semicha like you do semicha, you don't need to do semicha, you made it like shiraim. I would have thought that it's not mechaper. Kamash Milan that it is mechaper, even though you didn't do it right. You didn't do it like that. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak comes and he says, "Yeah, tenufa ikamenayu." What does it mean here that tenufa is the difference between them? He says that tenufa that Moshe and Aaron and his children were doing, that was the difference between them. The nafkamina between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Hanina to do with tenufa. Because according to the mandamar, according to the mandamar, that which is Rabbi Yochanan, that everything which is written there, it's me'akev, so it's me'akev as well. The tenufa. Tenufa is the waving, right? They had to wave certain parts of the animal. But according to the mandamar that says that in general, if for generations it's not going to be me'akev, it's not going to be me'akev also as well. So same thing, it's not going to be me'akev. Right? Again, remember, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Hanina, we keep on having to repeat this. Rabbi Yochanan says that anything which is me'akev there, it's always me'akev. Says Rabbi Hanina, only something which is me'akev for dorot, it's me'akev over there. Over there, we're talking about the miluim, the inauguration of the Mishkan. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, anything which is written by the inauguration of Mishkan, it impedes. If you don't do it, I don't care if in 20 years or in 2 years or next year it's not going to impede, now it impedes. Why? Because it's written here to do with the miluim. That's according to Shtat Rabbi Yochanan. According to Rabbi Hanina, no. If in the future semicha does not impede, right now it doesn't impede. If in the future tenufa does not impede, so to here it doesn't impede. So the Gemara is going to say, how do we know that tenufa is not me'akev in the future? So says the Gemara, how do we know that in the future that it's not going to be me'akev? Tanya, but we learned in a braita. It says litnufa. It says velakach keves echad la'asham litnufa lechaper alav. Tenufa mechaperet. Tenufa doesn't do the kapara. So what does it mean? Right? Valo en kapara labadam. Again, the same question that we said before. The kapara is only the blood. Shneimar ki adamu b'nefesh yechaper. Umat amul omar litnufa lechaper. So what does it come and teach you litnufa as a kapara? Shimasa litnufa shire mitzvah, just like we mentioned before. If you did the tenufa like shire mitzvah, which means that you didn't do the hanafa, the tenufa of the korban, because you didn't really care about it. You made it like shiraim. You made it like leftovers. You understand? Remember, shiraim is always leftovers. I mean, you made it like, you don't. So it's like that the Torah said that it wasn't going to be kapara, but b'diavad it is going to be an atonement. By the way, you should know this is called, right, in the Lashon of Chazal, a met mitzvah. Sometimes there are certain times where there's a met mitzvah kavanah. It's a mitzvah, but people make it like it's not a mitzvah. So the Rav Chida and everything, I remember we once had a very big shiur on this, Rav Benaim once gave us, and he said, for example, learning Torah on Friday afternoons, it's like a mitzvah. Why is it like a mitzvah? Because nobody's learning. Everyone's preparing for Shabbat. So he said there was an inyan, special seder on Friday afternoon. You understand? Like mamash, like it was a certain concept that sometimes you have mitzvot that it's a mitzvah, but people make it shiraim. You understand? People make it like, like a big deal. You understand? I've seen that a lot by Arvit. Right? Arvit, shoot, Arvit. You know how many people, they don't come to Mincha Arvit? You think they're just not here. They're not anywhere. Right? So what happens? Or Friday night. Friday night. It happened to me last week. Last week, Friday night, Friday in the morning, I went and I told someone, you're praying, you're going to come to the first minyan or second minyan? He goes, no, I pray at home, this and that. I said, I don't understand you. You have a better Knesset, you're going to pray at home. No, but I forced him. He goes, okay, to the rabbi, I can't say no, fine, I'm going to come. He came. He came on Friday night.
But you don't know how many this pandemic has transversed completely all the schedule and all
For sure. Why? Because it became kilu permitted. You're allowed to pray at home now.
There's a guy who came. He fixed my serrure.
The lock.
The lock. Guy all the time, matmi, batfila. So where are you praying now? I said, you used to come to the shul, guy, many years ago. I'm doing it at home.
באמת?
I said, what? I said, yeah, Akadosh Baruch Hu. I said, please, tefillah b'tzibur. Like, you're right. That's it.
No, it's good. It's good that they realize why, because it became a heter. It became that they don't need it anymore. So that's a shireh mitzvah. That became shireh mitzvah. Meaning, once upon a time, they understood you want long life. Tefillah b'tzibur. You want long life. I saw it by Ashkenazim. Ashkenazim, by the way, besides the Sfaradim, there were tefilloteros that all the lives they could be ameh aratzot, but tefillah was tefillah. Besides that, but even Ashkenazim, I remember in Toronto, you could have people that they look like I don't know what. Shachrim, Minyan, never missed once. You know what it means? Never missed. It was mamash, but now everything became so the shireh mitzvah. What does shireh mitzvah means? We come and we minimize in the mitzvah. That's considered a met mitzvah. Because now it's a mitzvah to revive it. It's a mitzvah to come and say, no, we're going to do it. And that's what they did a lot of things. Shatnez. Shatnez was a mitzvah. Who checks for Shatnez? Until they came and boom. Nowadays, look how Shatnez is booming. And the same applies with a lot of halachot. That once upon a time, it became, right? And then, that's it. You have to revive it. So the same thing. Rav Papa says, Prishat Shiva Ike Benayu. The difference between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Chanina is, do you have to do the Prisha of 7 days prior to it? According to the Mandamar, so according to the Mandamar, everything which is written is Me'akev, so it's going to be Me'akev. But according to Rabbi Chanina, it's not going to be Me'akev, which means if they didn't do the 7 days prior, so then it's not Me'akev. So says the Gemara, how do we know that Verdorot, they don't have to separate the Kohen for 7 days before Kippur? How do we know that B'diavad it's still going to be okay? So says the Gemara, the fact that we said matkinin lo kohen acher tachtav, and we didn't say mafrishin lo acher tachtav, which means like this. We said that just in case the kohen gadol happens a psul, right, and he's not able to continue, so therefore we separate for him another kohen gadol. But it doesn't use the language mafrishin, which is to separate, because if not, that kohen gadol should also, meaning that kohen should also separate. They don't separate him. They just institute for him. Matkinin lo kohen acher.
They prepare him.
They prepare, exactly, but they don't separate. So the fact that they don't separate, what happens if they happen a psul? The second kohen was not separated. Right? He's immediately, but he wasn't separated. So therefore you see that, but the avad, even if he wasn't separated, it's still going to be kosher. Okay, that's where they learn it.
That we learned at the beginning.
Yeah, that's what we learned. Ravina says, Ribui Shiva umeshicha Shiva ika benayu. Says no, the ribui begadim during the shiva, right, that he's obligated to put on during the shiva timei, and the meshicha during the shiva, that's the difference between them, right? What does that mean? Leman da'amar, according to the mandama, so if it's going to be ma'akev, was it mefurash, and therefore they have to put on the bigdei kiuna gdola and meshicha b'shem and mishcha during the entire 7 days of these miluim. right? Lemandamar, but according to the mandamar, davashar mekav ledura mekav lo makav. It's not going to be makev. Says the Gemara, ledura minalam dem lo makav. How do we know that it's not going to be makev? Right, for generations, if he's not going to put on the extra clothing or not going to be anointed every day. It's going to be an atonement for the Kohen, that which is going to be Yimshach Yado, that he's going to be anointed and he's going to have his underneath his father. What does this pasuk coming to teach you? Since it says by the Kohen Gadol, that for 7 days he's going to put on the clothing. Right, so it says over here, that's only by the begadim, that it's going to be 7 days. Nimshach shiva, right, and he's going to be anointed for 7 days. Nitraba shiva v'nimshach yom echad, or nitraba yom echad v'nimshach shiva. Maybe it's only you have to wear the clothes for 7 days, but you're anointed 1 day, or you're going to be anointed 1 day, and you're going to put the clothes for 7 days. Right, so basically either or. Tamulomar comes to teach you, which means that as long as you're nimshach nitraba bigadim, even if it's going to be less than the 7 days, he's still the Kohen Gadol and his avodah is keshira. Which means licha techila, obviously, you have to do both. You have to do the clothing plus anointing every single day of the 7 days. But it's coming to teach you that even with the avad, if you didn't, it's still going to be okay. Okay? So says the Gemara, Ashkechan ribui begadim, ribui shiva lechatchila. Meshicha shiva lechatchila menalan. But that's only to do with the ribui begadim lechatchila. What about meshicha for the 7 days lechatchila? How do we know that? So says the Gemara, ibai teima midiit sikra lemiute. From the fact that we needed a pasuk to minimize it. Okay? So the fact that we needed a pasuk to minimize the shiva, that's why you need it. Okay? So says the Gemara, v'ibay tema, if you want, you can answer. Tamar Kabaz, it says in a pasuk, v'igdei HaKodesh shel Aaron yu levanav acharav lemoshcha v'hem malevam et yadam, itkash meshicha leribui, right? There's a hekesh meshicha to ribui. Ma ribui shiva, af meshicha shiva. He says, just like ribui, lechatechila, you need 7. So to the meshicha, you need lechatechila 7. My tamadamar, right? What is the reasoning bemet of Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan said anything which was written by the miluim, it's me'akev. What's the reasoning of it? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Bisna says, Rabbi Bisna, Amar Kar, it says in the pasuk, ve'asita la'aron uvanav kacha yikuvahu. When you have to do for Aaron and his children like this, when it says like this, it means it's me'akev. Okay. So says the Gemara, Teinach kol milta dichtiva b'hayinyana. That's going to be good, anything which is written in that inyan. Hamud bet, 5b, anything which is written in that inyan. Milta doloktiva b'hayinyana amenala. But if anything which is not written there, how do we know that it's me'akev or not? Samarav Nachman Yitzchak Yalif petach petach. We learn a gzera shava, petach ol mued, and petach. So therefore, right, petach petach, it's a gzera shava. So the fact that it's written in gzera shava, other things also it's going to be me'akev. So for example, that's what it says over here. The shte milim which are written in the shte parashiyot of the miluim, right? It's written petach ol moed, so it's a gzera shava. So anything which is written in the parashat miluim, it's going to be ma'akev, just like it's written over there, even though it's not written kacha by everything, but I learned gzera shava by all the halachot there. So anything which is written there is going to be ma'akev. Rav Meshashi Amar, Rav Meshashi says, ushmartem mishmeret Hashem mezikuva. When it says the lashon of ushmartem mishmeret Hashem, this lashon of shmira is me'akev. Okay?
No.
No? Rav Meshash says, what is he saying? He's saying that you don't need the Gzera Shava, but when it says Ushmartem Mishmeret Hashem, that teaches you that this Lashon Shmira is La'akev B'diavad. When you have to watch over something, not just Stam Lechatchila, you have to watch over that, even B'diavad you have to watch over it. So therefore, that's why he says that it has to be there, that it's going to be even B'diavad, everything that's written there. And Ravashi Amar, Ravashi says, Kichen Tsuveti is Lashon Tzivui, that it's Me'akev. But this is how you are commanded. This is how you have to act. Okay? Fine. Next. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to the Braita. Kichen Tsuveti, Ka'asher Tziveti, Ka'asher Tziva Hashem. Right? What does that mean? Why do we need 3 times that it's written the entire concept of Tzivui? Right? This is all to do with the 8th day. Right? It's written by the Mincha, Kichen Tsuveti. By the Chatat in the same Perek, and Vayikra, right? Pasuk Yudchet, it's written, Kasher Tziveti. Right? And then it's written a little bit later, Kasher Tziva Hashem. What's going on? So he says, Kichen Tsuveti ba'aninut yocheluha. The first Kichen Tsuveti is that you have to eat it when they're on in. That's the first one. Because that's how I commanded you, that even on a nut, they have to eat it. That means that usually, Kochim is asurim b'achila be'aninut. But here they had to eat it, even though they're aninut. Kashet siveti b'shat maaseh amar lahem. This is during the time they actually did it. Right? This is when they found out about the Kohanim burning the Sira Chatat. So he told them that they shouldn't have burnt it. Okay? Then he says, Kashet Tziva Hashem velo me'elai ani omer. The third one.
Why are you reading it Suveti with one vav instead of Siviti?
Which one? Where are you? The first one is Kichen Tsuveti. The second one is Kashet Siveti. And the third one is Kashet Tziva Hashem. That's the way it's written in the Torah. That was in Parashat Shmini, last week's Parasha. Last week's Parasha, I had to remember. You had to remember which one is Tziveti, Tsuveti, and Kashet Tziva Hashem. 3 different forms. Okay, so the first one was you have to eat it ba'aninut. Second one is during Bishat Maaseh that they shouldn't have burnt it. And the third one was Kashet Tziva Hashem, and it didn't come from me. Meaning Kashet Tziva Hashem, Hashem commanded it. Nothing's coming from me. Okay? So Amar Rabbi Yossi B'Reb Chanina, says Rabbi Yossi B'Reb Chanina, Michnasayim, right? Remember that the pants is one of the clothing of the Kohen. En ketuvim b'parasha. It's not written at all in the parasha of the Miluim, of the inauguration of the Mishkan. It's not written in the Mishkan. No, that's not by the Miluim though. That's written by the Bigdei Keuna. By the Bigdei Keuna, yes, but by the Miluim. Meaning by the Miluim, right? It's not written at all. Keshehu omer. So then when it says there, v'zeh hadavar shetasel lahem lekadesh otam lechahelni. So the word v'zeh, the vav of v'zeh, right, is coming to include, right, mosif al rishon lavia michnasayim, that he has to actually put on michnasayim, right, because it said v'aseh lahem michnesebad, right, so it's coming to include that. V'asirita efa, and all the kohen also they have to bring the asirita efa on the first time, right, b'pam rishona b'chayav mincha shel asirita efa, and also this is during the 7 days of the miluim as well. That means even though it's not written mefurash, they learn it from vizeh davar. So the vizeh davar comes to teach you that they have to wear the michnasayim. Yeah, they have to wear the michnasayim and that they have to bring the asirita efa. So says the Gemara, Bishlama michnasayim ketive binyan devigadim. But like John Judge just said, one second, michnasayim is written mefurash by the begadim. So okay, I'm going to say that you're just going to include it. But asirita efa, menalan, how do you know that he has to do the asirita efa by the miluim? So says the Gemara, it's a gzera shava. Atya ze korban Aaron uvanav asher kivu l'Hashem asirita efa. So the fact, right? Yeah, so it's a ze. It's a gzera shava. It's written ze by the miluim and ze by the asirita efa. So therefore, it's ze. Okay, gzera shava. That's how you know you have to bring the asirita efa on the miluim. Another halacha. Amar Rabbi Yochanan mishum Bar Yochai. Says Rabbi Yochanan name mishum Bar Yochai. Minayin shaf mikra parasha me'akev. How do we know that even the reading of the parasha, that Moshe Rabbeinu came and he read the parasha of the Miluim, how do we know that that's also me'akev? Tamulmar vayom Moshe la'eda ze hadavar asher tziva Hashem. Afilu dibur me'akev. Ze hadavar, that means this is the words of Hashem, that even the dibur, the speech, what we're reading, that's me'akev. Right? But when it says hadavar is dibur. Ze hadavar, ze dibur asher tziva Hashem. That you have to actually mention this psukim. So you have to read it out. Okay? Nekuda. Next. Ketzad el Bishan, which means how did Moshe Rabbeinu come and he dressed Aaron uvanav in the Bigdei Keuna? So says the Gemara, Ketzad el Bishan, my davava. What does it mean? What's the question exactly? So he says, no. Ketzad ma Bishan latil levo. How's he going to dress them after Tchiyat HaMetim? Meaning then, how did he dress them? Okay, Chazak Baruch, how did he dress them? I have to know how to dress them. But no, in the future, how is he going to? What's the seder? So he says, latil levo nami l'shevo Aaron uvanav Moshe Yom. What, they're going to come together. So ask them then. Meaning they're going to come again. Meaning by Tchiyat HaMetim, everyone comes back. So if everyone comes back, so then just ask them when they come back. What's the problem? Ela ketzad bishan lemisbar krai. To understand the psukim and the miluim, that's what we're asking. We're asking how did you dress them?
We know that we're going to get it from there.
Yeah, we know that they're going to come and they're going to explain. Just for us to learn. So he says, so one of them says it's Aaron, and then it's the children of Aaron. The other one says, no, they're together at the same time. Meaning, who do you get dressed first? It's Aharon, and then after Aaron, it's the children, or at the same time you do everyone. Okay? So by the Amar Abaye says, so again, the machloket was, do you first do Aaron and then the children, or both at the same time? So Abaye says, by the ketonet, mitznefet, michnasayim, I have in brackets here in the art scroll. So the checkered shirt, the hat, and the michnasayim, which is the pants, according to everybody, lo pliga, nobody argues. First it's Aaron, and then afterwards Banav. The ben betzavah or ben basiyah, because whether it's talking about the tzavah in Parashat Tetzaveh, or in the actual making of it in Parashat Tzav, Aharon was first, right? So by both, whether it's in when you're making it or that he told us to make it. Remember, there are two different parashiot. Parashat Tetzaveh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu explains to us how to make it and what to make. And Parashat Tzav is we were actually making it. So Aaron was first. So when is the machloket? By the avnet, by the belt. Mandam, and according to the mandam, Aaron, and then afterwards the children, and then afterwards written, Vayachkor otam avnet. So first it's him, and then it's them. But according to the mandamar, right, Aaron uvanav bevatachat, tichtiv vechagarta otam avnet Aaron uvanav. Okay, so it's like both, right, Aaron uvanav. So it's at both at the same time. According to the mandamar, Aaron uvanav bevatachat, that it's both at the same time. Hakriv, it's written Vayachkor oto, and then it's written Vayachkor otam. Vava mudalef. Yeah. So Amar Lecha, he's going to tell you, Hahu avneto shel Kohen Gadol, lo zehu avneto. No, it's not the same. One is the Kohen Gadol's avnet, and one is the Kohen Idiot's avnet. It's two different. Remember that Aaron Kohen also used to wear bigdei kehuna, regular bigdei kehuna. There's the bigdei kehuna normal ones, and then there's a Kohen Gadol. So the Kohen Gadol, right, wore extra.
Why they say v'chagarta otam? Why otam and all?
That's what it says. It's the same pasuk. It says there in the pasuk, vayikra chet zayin, and then pasuk yud gimel. So the first pasuk in pasuk zayin says v'yachkor oto avnet, and then it says v'yachkor otam avnet. So from there they wanted to bring a proof that first you do Aaron, and then you do the children, right? But it's oto and then otam. So he comes and he answers, no. Amar lecha hu, that pasuk where it's mentioning oto and then otam is avneto of the Kohen Gadol, right? But it's not the same one. That's why it says v'yachkor oto and then otam, because it's two different avnetim. That's what it's talking about. Don't mean I would have had a it's the same belt. No, it's two different belts. That's why it's oto and then it's otam. But now that you have to do one and the other, you know, so like not that you're doing one after another.
One and the other?
I think it's just the way that it was made. That's what it says here. It says here, Avneto haya asui shesh, utchele v'agama metolat shani tzemer, and the Avnetim abarav was only of shesh, meaning that it was only the regular one was only made out of linen. The one of the Kohen Gadol was shatnes, was tzemer upishti, was made out of shesh, which is pishtan, tchelet v'agama metolat shani, which is tzemer, was mamash made out of shatnes. Okay. So that's the difference between them. So the mandam, and according to the mandam, that first it's Aaron and then it's the children. It's written all of them together. So Amalecha, he's going to answer to you, who Kamashmalan comes teach you that Avnetosha Kohen Gadol is the same Avnet as the Kohen Idiot. So according to this sheet, that's the exact same belt. So why do I need the double expression? Shema Mina, that first it's Aaron and then afterwards it's the children. So basically there was a machloket, how was the Avnet of the Kohen Gadol? Was it a different belt or the same belt? So if you're going to tell me it's a different belt, that's why it's written Oto and then Otam, because it's two different belts. If you're going to tell me that it's the same belt, why is it Oto Otam? First Aaron and then the children. Okay? So says the Gemara, can you ever dress somebody at the same time? How do you dress them at the exact same time? Right? Well, like we're talking about, imagine, right? Can you dress 5 people at the same time? So says the Gemara, Lo tzricha de'akdim, right? That he first put it on the Aaron, right? And then afterwards the children. And when it says bavatachat, the pirush was that there was no ifsek between the chagurat Aaron and chagurat avnet of the children with another clothing. Right? That means basically they first put on all the other clothing of the Aaron, and then afterwards to the children. And in the end, they put the avnet at Aaron and the avnet of the children without any, meaning that the last finishing touch was the belt, and the belt of Aaron, and then immediately the belt of the children. Okay? Because you can't dress. Remember, it was only one person dressing. It was Moshe Rabbeinu. So if you're going to tell me there's 5 people dressing 5 people, it makes sense. But if there's one person, he cannot dress 5 people at the same time. Say he's got 2 hands. Understand? And a belt, you need 2 hands, to put it on. So, so therefore he's saying, no, for sure it had to be one after another. But the kavanah is that there was no ifsek between other clothing, or there was nothing else. Okay? Fine. 2 dots. Where by the 2 dots on Vav Amud Aleph, where it says Mafrishin Kohen Gadol, right, from his house to Lishkat Padre Din. Lama Mafrishin, why did they separate him? So says Gemara, Lama Mafrishin, you just sold it to me, right? Whether it's according to Rabbi Yochanan Kedidle or Reish Lakish, according to Rabbi Lidle. According to Rabbi Yochanan, because he learned it from the Miluim. According to Reish Lakish, because he learned it from Har Sinai. So says Gemara, no, Hachi Kamar, Mi Beto, from his wife. Lama Piresh. Why does he have to separate him also from his wife? Right? So why didn't you bring the wife with him? Yeah, they should have a party in the Lishkat Padre Din. Why are you separating him from the wife? So says the Gemara, no. Tanya, we learned in the Braita, Rabbi Yudah Memitera, Omer, Shema Timtzei Ishta Safek Nida V'yavo Elea. No, maybe she's going to become Safek Nida, he's going to be Baalea, and then he's going to become Tameh for Shiva Yamim. So
That's
says the Gemara, Atu Birishia Skinan? Are we dealing with Rishaim? Meaning this is a Kohen Gadol, Ribono Shel Olam. You understand? You're suspecting the Kohen Gadol that the wife, that you understand? So says the Gemara, Ela Hashem yavo lishto v'timatzeh safek nida. No, not that she was already a safek nida. Ooh, yavo lishto marital, right? He's going to live, right? But when he's going to live with her, all of a sudden she's going to become safek nida. That's going to be a problem. Samru Rabbanan kamed Rav Chasta. Kiman, who does this go like? Like Rabbi Kiva. Ta'amar nida metameh bo'ala. But according to Rabbi Kiva, the nida is metamet bo'ala. That means even the one, the husband, she's going to contaminate the husband as well for the 7 days. But if it's going to be according to the rabbis, Hamri and nida metameh bo'ala. According to the rabbis, they're not going to be metameh bo'ala. Okay, so therefore there's no problem. So says the Gemara, no. Amalu Rav Chasta, says Rav Chasta, afilu teimru Rabbanan. Even if it's going to be Rabbanan. Akalo pligi Rabbanan le Rabbi Kiva. When the Rabbanan don't argue on Rabbi Kiva, ela be'achar achar. That's only if it's a time which is achar achar. Aval bechar achar, but one achar, modulei agrees to him, which means like this, right? A person right now lives with his wife, and all of a sudden she becomes a nida. So now what happens? If it was done that all of a sudden after a half an hour she becomes, so he's still pure. Because maybe at the time, right, when they were together, nothing really happened. It was only maybe afterwards. So when do we say that it was a problem? Only if immediately she finds it. You understand? So in the Gemara, there's a concept which is called achar, and then there's a concept which is called achar achar. So achar achar means that there was already a long time in between. So therefore, even though they were together, if all of a sudden after a half an hour, after whatever it is, all of a sudden, there's no problem. Why? Because I'm going to say at the time there was nothing. So he's okay. But if it's going to be only with one achar, so then I'm going to say, even Rabbi Kiva is going to be modeh, that the husband is going to become tameh. So Amar Bizera says, Bizera Shema Mina, we learn from here, Boel Nida and Okinida, right? That we learn from here, from this Braita, right, of Rabbi Yudah Mitzvah, that somebody that's Boel Nida is not like a Nida, V'tovel Bayom. He could act, that means even though the Nida itself is for 7, he's not a Nida, right? But rather, right, it says over here, because the Nida only does Tevilah at nighttime. The Boel the Nida, he could do it on the 7th day. He doesn't have to wait for nighttime. You understand?
That was also the shita of the kutim, no?
No, basically like this. Nowadays, we hold that, for example, the nida has to be done at nighttime. Zava is in the morning. Shivat Nikim is only for a zava. Okay, the 7 clean days is only for a zava. So now what happens now is that here, right, when we're talking about this, so he's saying the nida has to wait until the nighttime. The one that is Bu'el nida, he also has to wait 7 days, but he does it in the morning on the 7th day. Not on the nighttime. He doesn't wait for on the nighttime. He does it in the morning, and then he's like a tvulio, right? Which was like a zava. Yeah. But if you're going to tell me boil nida knida,
no, it's a different arga, of course.
Yeah. So he says ema tavil. When should he do tavila? Beleli in the nighttime. Lemachar. So how does he do avodah the next day? Ech yavid avodah. Ve'abai harev shemesh. You need harev shemesh, which means that the sun sets. So it's not 100% like a nida. So the Gemara says it's not true. Rav Shimi min Arda amar. Afilu, maybe you're going to tell me the boy nida is like a nida. They're going to separate him 1 hour before shkiyat hachama. Okay, and then what happens is that he's going to separate for 7 complete days. So it comes out that even if he's going to come and he's going to go on a safek nida beforehand, right, and he could do the tevilah on the erev Yom Kippurim, the next day he's going to do erev shemesh. He's going to go into the Bet Hamikdash Yom Kippur. Okay, so now says the Gemara, Meitvei, Kol Chayvet Tvilot Tfilatam Bayom, Nidav Yoled Tfilatam Balayla. So this is a general rule. Remember this forever. Yeah? The majority of all Tvilot, meaning anyone that has to do Tvilah in a mikveh, the Tvilah is usually during the day, except for a Nida and a Yoledet, a woman that's Nida and she gave birth. Those 2 women is Balayla. Nida in, Boel Nida lo, so it's only mashma the Nida, but not the Boel Nida. So the Gemara says, no. Nida v'chol datim rubuya. It's the nida and anyone that comes because of the nida. So it's not only just the nida; it's the nida and anyone that comes from the koach of the nida, which is the boel nida.
That's why the kala is done during the daytime.
No, nowadays, right? All women are safek zavot. That's why they have to do shiva nikim. Because remember, if there wasn't a safek zava, she doesn't have to do 7 clean days. Anida, she's allowed to be seeing blood for 7 full days. She stops on the 7th day. She goes to the mikveh at night and she's pure. That's Mina Torah. Right? That means Mina Torah. There's no 5 and 7, 4 and 7. No. Mina Torah. She sees her period. She starts counting today. She starts her period. Today's Friday. She counts 7 days. She's seeing blood for the 7 days. She stops on the 7th day. She goes to the mikveh at night. She's pure. That's minatura. That's nida.
What about when
Now,
we go to Sfaradim, we count the 5 days?
No, 1 second. That's another thing. Now, 1 second. So now what happens is that there's a concept that maybe she's a zava. What does that mean? Zava was a sickness that was done, and it was a nida blood. The nida was a regular period, but maybe zava was a sickness because we don't have the count of the days. And sometimes there was a blood which was pure, blood which is not pure. It all depends. So because of that, everything became mixed up. So now anytime she sees even a drop of blood, she needs 7 clean days. Not 7 days of blood, 7 clean days. Now, the 7 clean days was only because of Zava Gdola, which means that she saw for 3 days, right? So that's 7. So now what happens is that since she needs 7 clean days, and we're making her like a Zava, but now 1 second. Zava goes to the mikveh in the morning, not at nighttime, right? But the Gemara says no, because at the end of the day, she needs to do the 7 days, and she has to do it because we're giving her the Chumrah. So therefore, just in case they're going to have relations during the day of the 7th day, but she still has to wait. That means even though she goes to the mikveh in the morning, she still has to wait. Well, she still has to wait for the 7th day to make sure that she's still clean. So because of that, they go to the mikveh at nighttime. So a kala that was never anyway with her husband, so therefore they're lenient that they could go during the day, right, instead of waiting for nighttime. You understand? That's a concept. Okay, so meitvei. So now we're going to ask the following question: Balkeri kemagasheret. A balkeri is like a magasheret. What does that mean? A person that has a seminal discharge is like a magasheret. So if you touch a sheret, okay, boel nida is ketmemet. Right, so somebody that's boiling nida is like a tememet. My love, are we not talking about that it's like a tevilah? That means these concepts of temeim, is it not the concept also that it has to be on the 7th day of Tumah? So says the Gemara, no, we're not talking about to do with the tevilah, we're talking about the Tum'ah, meaning how much does it make it Tumeh? Sheretz, right, is a Rishon Tumah and it's Tameh for Yom Echad. So to Balkeri is Tameh Yom Echad. Boel nida is like a tememet, just like a tememet is 7 days. So to the boel nida is 7 days, but not to do with when you do the tevilah, just a Tum'ah. Not the tevilah, the Tum'ah. So it says the Gemara, Tumatan be'ed yaktiv. It's written mefurash in the Tumah. Hai Tumah shiva ktiv be, vai Tumah shiva ktiv be. By the nida, it's written 7 days. Boel nida, it's written 7 days. And tememet, it's written 7 days. That means somebody that lives with a nida, he becomes tameh for 7 days. And somebody that's tamemet, he becomes tameh for 7 days. It's written mefurash. So it says on Vav Mubet 6b, El alav, rather letvilatan. You're right. It's talking about the tevilah. Okay, we're talking about the tevilah. So says the Gemara, no. Le'olam le'tumatan. Really, we're talking about for the tum'ah. The seifa itzricha and we need it for the seifa. Ela shechamur mimenu boel nida shemetameh mishkav moshav. But it's chamur, the boel nida, which is going to be metameh mishkav moshav. Betumah kala letameh ochlin mashkin. To do with the tumah kala to be metameh ma'ochlin mashkin, food and drinks. Okay, fine. So Tashema, we're going to now bring a proof that the Tani Rebchia Hazava Zava ve'Metzora ve'Motzora al Bal Nida v'Tumei V'Dilatam Yom. So this is exactly what we mentioned before. Zav, a man that has seminal discharges. Zava, a woman that has the sicknesses and is coming out the dam. Metzora, a male that has leprosy. Metzorat, a woman that has leprosy. Boel Nida, somebody lives with a Nida. Tememet, somebody that becomes Tememet. Tvilatam Bayom, when do they do mikveh? During the day. Nida v'yoledet, tvilatam balayla. And Nida v'yoledet, they do tvila balayla. So here it's written mefurash, boel nida tvilato bayom. So says the Gemara, Tiyufta, you're right, it's a good question. But it's written mefurash. It's written mefurash. Boel nida is bayom, not during the night time. So says the Gemara, ve'at shata mefarsho mitumat beto, hafrisho mitumat. If you're already so strict on the Kohen Gadol to separate him from his tumah of his wife, of his house, separate him of tumat met. Right? That means, why do we let everyone come inside? Maybe they were tomemet, and if they touch him, now he becomes tamed. Separate him. Amar of Tachlifa, Avua de Ravuna Mishmed de Rava. Says that Tachlifa, the father of Ravuna, named Rava. So tomeret, tumat met utra itzibur. No, tumat met was utra betzibur. Right? We're on Vav Mubet. Yeah? Tumat met was utra betzibur, and therefore it was a ter gamur. There's no problem. Ravina says, even if you're not going to say it's hutra, it's dechuya. Remember that there's a difference in hutra and dechuya. Hutra means it was completely permitted. Dechuya means it was just pushed off, but it's not that it's 100% permitted. Okay? Even if you're going to tell me tumat met was dechuya betzibur, therefore it's not a mamash heter gamur, right? But and therefore lechatchila you should still do this. Tumat met lo shchicha, tumat beto shchicha. Tumat met is not shchiach, right? Tumat beto shchiach, meaning that for a woman to become a nida is common. Right? It happens all the time. Right? But for a tumat met, that a person becomes a memet, it's not that common. saying it's not that it's not
unless he's with the Chevra.
unless he works with the Chevra. We're saying it's not common. Itmar, it was stated, Tumat met. Rav Nachman says, Hutra b'tzibur, v'Sheshat Amar, Dechuya b'tzibur. So that's a machloke, whether it's Hutra or Dechuya. Okay? By the way, you should know, we explain Hutra and Dechuya to do with many halachot. For example, Muktzeh. Is Muktzeh Hutra or Dechuya? So for example, let's say I have a Klish V'Nachtol Yisur, a hammer. Okay? Is that Hutra or Dechuya if I need to use it for a certain reason? What's the difference?
Hutra.
Let's say, so that's a machloke, it's Faradim and Ashkenazim.
For us is Hutra.
Usually for us it's Hutra. For example, let's say I have a hammer and a nutcracker. Can I use the hammer?
No.
On the nutcracker?
No.
So according to the Ashkenazim, no. Why? It's Dechuya. Dechuya means it's pushed off, but now I don't need to push it off. I have a nutcracker. According to Sfaradim, if you say it's Hutra, it's Mutar. Because it was permitted.
Even if you have the nutcracker?
Even if you have the nutcracker. Because since you say Hutra means that it's permitted. So there's no difference now between if you have the Kli Heter or not. So it all depends whether it's Hutra or Dechuya. Are you permitted to use that or not? This is brought down in the Acharonim and everything. It's a very, very famous machloket. Mishabra is Machmir, but Yosef, Menuchat Ava, Michael Peretz. I remember there was a lot. They were all Matiri.
Wow, this is a mamash chidush.
Yeah, but it comes from this concept of Hutra and Dechuya. If you say it's Dechuya, it's just pushed off, but it's not that it's permitted legamre. If you say Hutra means it's completely permitted. So, if you have people that they are tameh and tahor in the same betav, everyone agrees, right? The Teorin of then for sure the Teorin are going to do it in the Tmin. Meaning like this. Let's say we have a family of Kohanim, right? They're supposed to do the service today. Part of them are pure, part of them are impure. So according to everybody, only the pure ones are going to do the service. When is the machloket? Are you going to look for pure people from another betav? Rav Nachman Amar heteri b'tzibur, it's a uta b'tzibur, and you don't have to look for it. Rav Sheshet says, no, it's dechuya b'tzibur, and therefore we're going to look for another from the other betav. So basically, we have one betav. There's 20 people in the betav. 10 are pure, 10 are not pure. According to everybody, the 10 that are pure, they work, the other ones don't work. But now, should I look for pure ones from another family of Kohanim that are doing in the same week in order to grab them? So if you're going to tell me dechuya, yes. If you tell me hutra, you don't need to. Okay? Ika de'amni, there are those that say, even if they're going to be in the same betav, still it's a machloket that Rav Nachman argues. Palgi Rav Nachman, v'amar av dinam itmin, the tmin could also do it. Why? Zayin amud aleph, techol tumat met betzibur, Rachman HaShayim, any type of tumat met betzibur, the Torah permitted it, and therefore they could even, that means even in the same betav. You have pure and impure, the impure could also come, and they could also do the services in the Bet HaMikdash. Because Utra. And Bezat Hashem, we continue on Sunday.
We did it.